209-24.
Time is now 6 p.m. It's time to get started. For the record, today is July 19th, 2016. Time is 6 p.m. for the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for Suwannee County. I haven't asked anybody to do the invocation and the pledge, so I'll just lead us in that today. Please rise. Dear Lord God, we thank you for this time today to be able to assemble and fellowship one with another, to come to do the county's business. We pray that you help us to do that. Help us to do that in a way that's pleasing and honorable to your great and holy name. We thank you for these men here as they have volunteered to serve, to do the will of the people. We pray that we can do that in such a way that we do it in a perfect way in an imperfect society. We thank you, dear Lord, for all the many rich blessings you have blessed our community with. We thank you for the first responders. We thank you for our soldiers where they're serving. We ask that you bring them home safe to us tonight. Our heart goes out to all those who are living in troubled communities across our nation, where they're suffering, and the friends and families of various people in those communities. We know that tragedy has struck us many times this year, and so we just ask that you watch over them, comfort them, bring them comfort beyond measure, dear Lord. We just thank you for that. We thank you for the flag. We thank you for our great nation, and we just ask that you continue to bless it. Bless it in your great and holy name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, thank you for attending this evening. I think that if we didn't have air conditioning in the barn here, probably many of you wouldn't be here today. It's hot outside, I'm going to tell you that. Moving into our agenda here this evening, first things first, we're going to approve the meeting minutes of our regularly scheduled board meeting on July 5th, 2016. Gentlemen, you've been provided with those minutes in your packet. Have you seen any changes or corrections that you'd like to make? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Sessions, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving into the consent agenda, I've had no requests for any of these items to be pulled. Are there any items that any commissioner would like to consider individually here this evening? Hearing none, I need a motion for items 2 through 14 to be approved.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Gamble. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We do have one time-specific item here this evening, but before that, we'll do the proclamations and presentations, and we'll give our attention tonight to Abby Johnson from the Suwannee River Water Management District, and she's going to give us a presentation regarding the state of the resource and payment in lieu of taxes. We'll turn our attention now to Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, audience. Tonight, our presentation is fairly brief. We're scaling back this year and just kind of getting to the point, if you will. First, I'd like to acknowledge our county's representative, Representative Porter, and Senator Dean, as well as the governor, for supporting the PILT funding, and that's payment in lieu of taxes, for the Suwannee River Water Management District. And the PILT is offset to affect the tax rolls of small communities in places where the land acquisition from state agencies, and that includes Suwannee River Water Management District. The county qualifies for PILT because you have a population of 150,000 persons or less. And the PILT only applies to properties that are held in fee simple, and in that regard, we are holding 11,116 acres of county property. And conservation lands are exempt, but just to keep you all up to speed, we have 7,167 acres of county property. Again, we just simply want to thank you for being long-term partners. There's a lot of work that we do together that we simply would not be able to do without the assistance of the county and your foresight to identify projects. But this evening, I'm here to present to you the payment in lieu of taxes in the amount of $17,072.40.
Thank you
Whom
very
should I
much.
present this?
Right up here. But before you do, are there any questions from the board to Mrs. Johnson, or any statements or comments that you'd like to make about the Water Management District for her to carry back? Hearing none, I'll just say that we thank you for being a good partner to us. I know that there are many opportunities we have to work together when we have projects that come up that, or we just might have questions about. So please take back our greetings to the board of the Water Management from this.
Certainly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give that to the clerk so they can deposit it in the bank. All right. The time is now 6:06 according to the clock on the computer. So what we'll do is we'll move on to some additional agenda items here. I'll read those into the record. Item number 17, approval of scrap supplemental agreement number 1 with Florida Department of Transportation for new road construction of Haynes Avenue from Express Street to Craven Street, and adoption of enabling resolution. Number 2, approval of task order with Dewberry Engineering, Inc. for CEI services associated with Haynes Avenue funded by the Florida Department of Transportation. And number 3, approval of a change order number 4 with Little and Williams for work at the Dowling Park Library. Gentlemen, would you like to consider these here this evening? And if so, is there any discussion about any or all of any one of these items?
Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
if you'd like, I can give you a little more detail.
Sure,
on
go ahead.
these, and you
Jump
can-
right in there.
The first one on Haynes, that supplemental agreement with DOT is for additional funding in the amount of $7,216, fully funded by DOT.
All right. Does anybody have any problems with item number 1?
No, sir.
I do.
Well, I need a motion to approve.
Move approval. Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Gamble. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. How about item number 2? And Mr.
Two.
Harris will give us a little background on it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the second item is a task order with Dewberry Engineering for construction engineering inspection in the amount of $9,670.41. Again, that one's funded by FDOT.
What are the wishes of the board?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Fleming, seconded by Commissioner Sessions. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item number 3 is a change order with the Dowling Park Library. I don't know if...
I can tell you what that's about. Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
go ahead.
That's in the amount of $762.32 for some flashing and some small miscellaneous items associated with trimming out the brick.
Understood. What are the wishes of the board?
Move approval.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Gamble, seconded by Commissioner Sessions. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All righty. We still have a few minutes, about 6 minutes, until the time-specific item can be heard. So I guess we could take a little break until then, I reckon. Is that okay with the board? All right, we'll reconvene about 6:15. The time is now 6:15, and we'll get back underway here, folks. Our time-specific item here is item number 16, and it says, "At 6:15 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard, hold a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution supplementing the schedule of transfer fees in Section 62-235 Suwannee County Code of Ordinances by establishing a rate for disposal of tires at Suwannee County's Transfer Station Waste Tire Collection Center." At this time, I would like to open public hearing. Anyone who would like to be offering testimony on behalf of this item needs to please stand and be sworn at this time by our Deputy Clerk, Arlene Ivy Smith. And Mrs. Smith, will turn the floor over to you at this time.
If you wish to speak during this public hearing, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you will give in these proceedings this evening will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address clearly for the record.
Mrs. Smith, I hate to do this to you, but we're going to ask you to stay in case somebody else decides at some point in time to offer testimony. You may have to swear them in.
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you very much. All right. At this time, we'd like to open the floor to staff comment, and then there will be questions by the board at that time, and then after that, we'll open public comment. So we'll turn our attention to Mr. Harris, County Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we've discussed this item before. It has to do with the rates that we charge for disposal of tires at the county landfill. In the previous meeting, we discussed the fact that these rates have not been changed since 1990, and it's actually costing us more now to handle these tires and dispose of them out of county than we are collecting at the landfill for disposal. These rates only have to do with those who take tires across the scales at the landfill. I'm going to ask you before we get started, Commissioners, to go to the recommended action and completely delete number 2, because number 2 has nothing to do with the commercial rates whatsoever. And since we last met, actually, if you remember, we digressed into a lengthy conversation about the collection sites at that last discussion. I have no interest in going there again tonight. The resolution was very narrowly drafted to speak specifically to disposal rates. The people that take tires to the landfill for disposal are, for the most part, commercial vendors, those who are in the tire selling business, that take their tires that they've taken off of trucks, vehicles, equipment. They haul them to the landfill. They're weighed. They pay a per-ton rate for disposal. We then have to handle those tires at our site. We eventually load them onto trailers and ship them out of county. So the only thing that we will be dealing with tonight is the amount that's being charged to commercial vendors that come across those scales at the county landfill to dispose of the tires. That is the official disposal method that they have to comply with so far as their relationship to appropriate disposal and DEP's rules and regulations go.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Are there any questions of staff by the board? Hearing none, I'll like to open public comment at this time. Anyone who would like to give testimony in this matter, please come forward.
John Koch, 18052 89th Road, McAlpin. Am I to understand, Mr. Chairman, that we are limiting it to specifically commercial vendors, commercial prices, and the amount that they pay? We're not talking about anything else within this. Then my comments will be reserved if we open this up beyond the specifics we're dealing with tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Koch.
My name's Ronnie Richardson, 8717 208th Place, O'Brien. I hesitate in coming up here and talking to the board because I don't want this to be misconstrued as any type of platform for a candidacy. Be that as it may, I'm up here because this is a concern for me. But you did say something I want to question before I make my comments. And John began the question, but I'm not sure I understood his where we're at on with it. So could you answer this? Are you considering forcing the residents to stop taking the tires to the collection sites and now taking them to the transfer site? at this point and paying the fees?
This resolution only has to do with rates charged at the landfill. Now, if someone takes a load of tires to the landfill and chooses to do that, they would be charged the rate. But I don't anticipate that occurring. What I anticipate occurring is people continue to haul individual residences. And let me emphasize something that I said before. The problem that we're experiencing is not with people at home buying tires at a tire store, going home and changing them, and then decide to take their old ones to a collection site. We know that our problem is with commercial businesses. And we know that because we had all of our site attendants evaluate the volume of tires that were coming in daylight hours. So we have no reason to believe that the incredibly high volume of tires that comes in the cover of darkness is coming from the residents that come in and drop their trash bag in those dumpsters. This resolution was drafted to address the commercial businesses that are handling things properly, that take their trailer loads or truckloads of tires to the landfill for disposal the way they're supposed to. So this is very narrowly tailored, like I said. This has nothing at all to do with collection sites.
If it involves the legal disposal of the tires, part of the problem that I had with the discussion last month when you were discussing this at length was the fact that a lot of this problem is caused because of folks that are illegally dumping tires at these sites that are raising our disposal fees and costing us more money to dispose of the tires. Considering the fact that we do not spend nearly half of our disposal, budgeted disposal expense for tire disposal, I don't see the need. It looks like it's making a mountain out of a molehill and then turning around and having those who are legally disposing of the tires pay higher prices. Number one, I believe it's going to cause people who are on the fence about taking the tires to the transfer site to consider dumping the tires illegally as well, especially since we're not doing anything to address those who are dumping the tires illegally. That can be addressed from a law enforcement issue. If it's illegal, it's illegal. Let's deal with it from a law enforcement standpoint. And I understand that last month you talked about the fact that there's not enough law enforcement out there to do all of this. There are ways we can handle this, folks, where the fines can be assessed, whatever the penalties would be, that would curb the behavior. And I believe that that's something that ought to be addressed for the illegal dumping. But if we're not spending half of our budget on tire disposals, why are we raising the fees?
None of what you just said has anything to do with this resolution at all in relationship to commercial businesses paying for disposal of the tires, because they're the only ones that are paying today. You said that we would be increasing the rates for citizens. The citizens aren't paying today. So we're not increasing anything, and they're not paying anything today. There is no increase. I thought I made that perfectly clear. So I apologize if you didn't hear it that way. But this resolution has only to do with the commercial businesses that are taking tires to the landfill. It has nothing to do with any citizen that takes a tire to a collection site at all.
I understand that.
And in
unless they're a
fact,
citizen.
in fact, I spoke to Mr. Cameron a week or two ago on the telephone about this particular issue. In fact, 2 years ago, I think he and I had a conversation about someone who wanted to go to work at the time as a private investigator to watch this problem. But we had a conversation recently, and I imagine we'll have more, as it pertains to something that we're not talking about tonight, and that issue being the collection sites and how to police those effectively. So tonight, we're here to talk about commercial rates for the tire stores that sell tires that are in that business, that take them to the landfill, and what they're going to pay when they take them across those scales.
Are we raising the rates?
The proposal is to raise the rates.
Then it does involve raising the rates on those who work and those who own businesses within this county.
Well, the problem is that if you don't have the companies, the commercial business, pay the total cost of disposal, then someone else has to pay that. It has to be subsidized by someone who isn't in the commercial tire business. So in most arenas, it's more appropriate to, in this case, this is a user fee. It's one of the cleanest fees that there is for the service that's being provided, which means we're paying to dispose of these things out of county, and the people that are in that business would end up paying the cost.
Anyone else? Were you were you sworn? Okay, thanks.
My name's Buddy Thompson. I operate Precision Auto and Muffler, 301 Connor Street here in Live Oak. Y'all are talking about the fees that we pay. We've got more problems than just the fees. If you have noticed, we can't put fences, we can't do things in the city on certain ways of keeping people from doing different things. I'm paying for the general public to dump tires, and I'm paying for my tires, which I take normally 200 tires at a time to the dump. What's happening to me is the same thing that's happening to you. They're dumping them at your sites. They're dumping them at my shop 2 blocks from here. I have tractor tires, car tires, so I'm paying for my tires, and I'm also paying for other people's tires, the general public that is dumping it. I have cameras up. I usually can't get a tag number, but I can watch them do it. So you've got to think about that too. In other words, we're paying a fee of what we do and what we build and what we have to dump. But we have to think about other things too, because there's no policing at that. The city doesn't police it. I don't think the sheriff's department polices it very much. We've talked about it with the police. Nothing's ever came about. On average, when I dump my tires, which is about 200 a month, I would say that 12 to 15% of those tires aren't mine. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but a tire at 25 pounds a piece is quite a bit. So, I mean, I understand you have to have the money to have the facility and to provide the service, but you've got to think about commercial too. As long as our businesses are taken care of and we can keep operating, and there's going to be more and more problems with this as time goes on because they're harder to get rid of. And, you know, we're supposed to have a plant up here that grinds them and washes them and paints them. That never happened. All they do up there is wash them and paint them. So it's not really a help to the county to have that up there as far as disposing of the tires. Everybody thought that they could take them up there and pay a certain amount and they would use it, but they do not. And they will not. They say they never will. But you've got to think about that. Plus one other thing. I have people come in my shop every day and buy tires. 4 tires. 6 tires on a dually. 8 tires on a tandem dually trailer. They do not want to pay a disposal fee. I charge $2.50 per tire. And I do it straight across the board, whether it's a tractor tire or a little car tire, because that's the only way I can regulate it. They don't want to pay that. They tell me, I don't want to pay that, I'll take it home. Well, you know what they're doing with it. It's not us telling them to take it home. They refuse to pay the fee. So what do? We're locked in the middle. I'm paying for tires that I'm not selling, and also they're taking the tires home, which we can't regulate. And you know what they're going to do with them. And they think they have the right to do it, which they were told that originally. When the special assessment started years ago, they were told that they could take so many, when they started dumping. And that's the problem that I see with it. And y'all going to have to think about that, because it's going to get worse before it gets better. You're going to have more before you're going to have less. And, you ride the county roads today, and you go up and down these dirt roads, you see tires thrown everywhere. And it's probably not the commercial businesses of this county. It's probably other people from other commercial business from other counties bringing the stuff in here. And don't think they won't, because they will. As long as if you protect the guy that's doing it legally and spending the money like he's supposed to for you to take care of that problem, there's not a problem. But if you keep jacking the price up and we're getting more tires dumped on our property and everybody else's property, you've got to think about that too, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And, with what's going on in the world today with this virus and things like that, you've got to protect yourself and protect the people around you with tires. That's a very big problem. And I know y'all are going to have problems at the landfill with it, because water gets in them. It's a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. And, you know, if you spray them, if you do different things, you can. But you've got to think about your businesses that have the jobs here, and how much money we can make and sell tires, because there's not much markup on tires. I would not be selling tires today if it wasn't for other services that I do with it. So y'all need to think about that very hard, because there's not that many of us out there that take them to the landfill commercially in Live Oak. If you really think about it, if you sat down and look at the businesses that sell tires, there's not really that many. There's a lot of tires, but there's not a lot of different ones that do it. So that was my output. I wanted you to understand that they are dumping on our property, you know, and we're paying for those too. And you've got to think about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to offer testimony to this matter before the board today? Hearing none, I'd like to close public comment at this time. After hearing that testimony, board, is there any further discussion on this matter?
I just have a question.
Commissioner Sessions.
Ms. Harris, what's our monthly charge when we take them out off? What have we been paying average on a month when we go dump them? Do you know?
I don't know if I can answer that question right now.
Or just a
I don't
ballpark?
remember, but we looked at the, hold on a minute, let me look and see if I had it written down in this packet. I could have had you that.
We've got
I will say this, though. In fact, I wanted to say this. We bid that service out from time to time, so we try to get the best, absolutely lowest price that we can get to dispose of the tires. So we do our best to try to keep the cost down. Give me a second here. I don't know that I put it in here. Let's see. I don't have a monthly
I don't remember from the last
rental rate in here.
discussion, but I think we were dumping about 209 tons a year, and I was just trying to figure out what the cost was.
Total inbound was 219 tons in 2015. That's how many tires we took in, 219.
And we were paying $120 a ton to do it?
I spoke to Supervisor Landfill. He said we're breaking even at $100 a ton.
Okay.
Well, that's providing we're not doing anything to them, period.
So we're spending, at $100, we're spending $21,900 a year to dump them. So we'd basically tack on another $20.
Yeah, we're budgeting 40,000. So I believe that's what I seen when I looked at the green bar. We're budgeting 40.
So-
We're coming in
so-
under budget every year.
Right, so we're about half, a little bit less than half.
Total revenue for those tires brought into the scale house in 2015 was $10,417. Now, it doesn't make any difference what we budget if we don't collect it. We budget anything, but we didn't collect that. Our cost for disposal was $21,922. So it cost us more than we took in, twice as much.
Yeah, but the tires that are figured into our total cost is all tires, residential, everything collected at the sites. It's not just commercial tires coming across the scale, is it?
No, it's all the tires.
It's all the tires.
Yeah, but we have to pay to get rid of all the tires.
We have to, and a portion of that's figured into the trash assessment on the residential side of it. The other portion.
I don't have any reason to believe that that's true. Now, I called Heather about that. She has no history of the county ever incorporating a cost into the household assessment for tire disposal. And there's a reason for that, and she explained that when she responded back to me. Household waste is classified entirely different than tires. Tires are classified as special waste. And according to her, we do not pay a household assessment for tire disposal.
The way that I researched and found that it wasn't, that it was figured into it, it was based on a tonnage. They were a certain tonnage of household debris, then a certain tonnage that was going to be yard debris, inclusive of tires in that tonnage. And they based it on a 4-tire weight, is the way they come up with it. I don't know, Heather, but that was through my research that I found it on. And we're talking, those workshops were held, I don't know how many years ago, so.
I will say this, again, I'm not here to discuss residential tire disposal. We're talking about the cost of running the business. You're in a business. You're taking in $10,417, and you're spending $21,922 to get rid of the product that you're taking in and collecting 10. Commissioners, I'm just giving you a rate that will help to cover some of the costs. You can do what you want to, but in the end, I can only give you the data that we have, and it's costing you twice as much as you're taking in. And that means it's being absorbed by the taxpayers at large. That's who's paying the difference. I also want to compliment the gentleman that spoke a moment ago. I mean, he made a lot of the same exact points that I made in the previous meeting. And I do believe a lot of these tires are coming from out of county. We spoke about that last meeting. So a big part of this ultimately, and again, I don't want to get into that conversation tonight, will be policing the sites. But for now, you've got to, the data here on 3 years' worth of analysis on what you're generating in revenue for tire disposal and what it's actually costing you, and it's costing you a great deal more than what you're taking in.
So, I guess my point is though, of costing you $20,000, that's inclusive of the commercial and the residential side, which is coming from the collection sites. But the only place that we're collecting money from is the commercial side. So it's always going to be upside down if you're looking at the commercial side as your only revenue stream of what you collect when it comes across the scale. And I have no reason to believe that it's any of our local businesses, because I showed up at several of them over this past week and asked them for a copy of their receipt where they have it at the scale house, and they provided it for me. Average month for this one company, April they 9.38 tons, in June it was 7.5 tons, and that was because they had a farmer come pick up a bunch of them that uses them to hold down the plastic on their silage. So they said their numbers were off. But just on that one company, if you run their average, you're looking at $2,300 a year increase, just on going up $20 a ton on a tire. Doesn't sound like a lot, but small business, $2,300 a year, it starts adding up on them.
Mr. Harris, is there any way that we track who's dumping or bringing tires and paying for tires coming to our collection? Are they all from in-county, or do we have other people coming here because other counties won't accept them because they don't have a transfer station or a landfill or something like that? Is that?
I'm sure we have that information. I don't have it with me tonight. I can obtain it. But I would venture that they're not paying the cost of transportation to take it to our scale house. If they're paying the cost of transportation, it's to take it to our collection site at night.
No.
If it's coming from a business. If it's coming from a business.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sessions.
So basically, half of the tires are coming across the scales and the other half are coming from collection sites that, wherever they are, and I know I probably have one of the worst ones, if not the worst one in Welborn, but
it's very rare. Let me just say, it is rare for a citizen to pull in with tires and drop 4 tires. Incredibly rare. Last meeting we talked a lot about citizens, potential impacts to citizens. That isn't the issue here. It's very rare that they take a tire, and we recognize that. This is a commercial business that you are in, though, where you're taking tires to your landfill, and you're paying twice as much as you're collecting for the disposal of those. Don't misunderstand me. I'm willing to do whatever you want to do. You don't want to change anything, I'm okay with that. But the prudent thing for me to do is bring you the information and keep you informed on what's really going on out there. The other issues with policing and all, that's an entirely separate issue, and we'll deal with that some other time. But
Is there any further comments?
Just, Mr. Chairman, just going back, looking at the 3-year tire analysis, basically the solid waste assessment, this is above and beyond commercial tire disposal. Y'all have the same information. 2014, there was $13,000 that everybody paid for somebody else's tires, or maybe including their own, if you take 1 or 2 to the, or 3 or 4 to the collection side. 2015 was 11,000. Year to date in 2016 was 6,000. So, I mean, we know it's from a business model, we're losing money on this. You know, $10,000-$12,000 a year. What I thought about when I was studying this over the weekend was I guess what I'd like to see us do is, and I'm not trying to open this back up again, is if we were to fix the collection sites like we did the Pepper site, I know I would hope that we would see a reduction in that number, that $10,000 or $12,000 annual cost. But then at the same time, Mr. Thompson's going to be the one that's going to end up getting hit, or we're going to have inmates picking it up off the side of the road. They're going to take them somewhere. So, I mean, it's still not necessarily solving the problem. We just got a bunch of heathens out there that just don't care. But as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see us spend money and make the effort to equip and fix our collection sites. Now, I know there's people that don't. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people fussing about that. But the Pepper site was a huge success. We already know that. We expanded those hours. It's costing more money to operate that way, but it's a system that's working. At least I think so. Anyway, that's kind of where I was at. I understand that, you know, I don't necessarily have a problem with raising the rates to match the cost of what we're needing to do, but I'd rather see what we can do to fix the problem first before we went to that measure. Does that make sense? I mean, that's...
Yes, sir.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, right before you brought it up, that's what I wrote down. I'd rather address the problems that we have at the collection sites before we go raise any fee. I think if we can stop it on one end, there may not be a need to raise a fee. If we stop it, if we scale it back, and then we still see a need for an increase, then we address it. But I think we kind of going around it backwards, increasing first and addressing the problem second.
Anything further? Well, I did some research as well, and I think that as has already previously been discussed, that this is a multifaceted issue, and I mean, we aren't talking about a tremendous amount of money here in relation to the other responsibilities that we have as a board. So one idea that I had was for the businesses that are existing, that are currently operating here, maybe what we should do is get some sort of, and I'll use this term loosely, a permit to dump at our site, charge them the fee that they're paying now, or sign them up, give them a card to go to the transfer station, they pay the current rate. Anybody else who hasn't signed up for that would be subject to the increased rate, $120. Does require a little bit of paperwork, so there may be some fee associated with that, but it may help us monitor better where the tires are coming from, commercially speaking. It will also give you data that you can work with to make a decision in the future. I think that the collection sites should be retrofitted to look like the Pepper site sooner rather than later. The gates need to be closed, gentlemen. And I think that has to happen post-haste. And I think you'll see that $10,000 to $12,000 difference in what we're collecting and what we're paying to have them disposed reduced by Probably not a super significant amount of money, but a pretty considerable one. If you're talking $2,300 is a cost, an increased cost to the businesses, we might see that, might see a little bit better. But that's kind of my recommendation, is so that we can gather information
I'd
about.
like to add one more comment, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wainwright.
Just going back to information that Mr. Harris provided to us at the last meeting, and just thought I'd throw it out, because this is specifically what we're talking about. This is tire policies for the county surrounding Suwannee. Y'all have this information as well, but I'm gonna read it to the public, other than, I'm just gonna go to the cost per ton. I'm not gonna bother with the individual stuff. But Columbia County, and this might be a reason why we're getting tires from other counties. Columbia charges $115. Hamilton charges $100. Hillcrest charges $150. Madison charges, well, it doesn't say, it doesn't say, actually.
They don't have per ton, it's per ton.
They don't have a per ton. It's $4 a tire for trucks, $3 for passengers, semis are $7.50, and $10 with a rim. Lafayette County charges $140 a ton. You know, we might be attracting business that we don't want because we're the cheapest in town. Just food for thought.
Commissioner Wainwright, you've illustrated a point, again, as you can look even further than that, and different communities handle this problem in different ways. Some people charge nothing for tire disposal in an effort to gather all the tires, but their citizen pays a significant amount for that in the form of fees.
Yeah, now this doesn't, there's no indication here what their
I know.
solid waste rates
I'm
are for
not
the individual counties.
advocating for that one way. I've offered my solutions. But I think that if we are taking tires from other counties at our transfer station because of the increased fee at other areas, then it may behoove us to charge those folks because we are handling those tires.
Well, I still think that we need, if like I said just a moment ago, I still think I'd like to see us address the sites individually first before we go into raising rates.
And that is fine. I'm just suggesting a solution for the businesses here to have, if they sign up, then they can stay at the current rates, and then anybody else above and beyond that would be subject to the other rates. Now, those generally are going to be people from out of town. So that's my solution. But anyways, yes, fully in favor of closing the sites, closing the walk-through gates, and all that stuff. If you guys want to act on that, we can do that after we get out of this. I mean, we discussed it at the last one.
That's a budget.
I'm not ready, yeah, that's going to be a budget issue, and it's going to require a lot more discussion. I'm not ready to go into that tonight.
It doesn't, if we don't expand the hours, and if we select certain sites for that that are habitual offenders.
Well, I mean, I'd like to go talk to, I'd like to talk to Dennis. I'd like to talk to Randy. I'd like to see, do a little bit more comprehensive evaluation of, instead of just making a decision tonight. I mean, certainly not prepared to do that tonight.
No, I think it's going to be more than just making a decision, because some of the sites, the reason we have problems with them is their location. So, I mean, it may be, there may be some sites that need to be relocated. One in Mr. Sessions' district that is just bombarded with tires on a regular basis.
I got two dumps, each on the county line, Hamilton.
You
and
pull up
Columbia.
to a stop sign, and the fence is right there. I mean, they don't even have to go in, they pull right up to the gate and just throwing them over the gate out of the trailer. So even if you shut that one 24/7, they're still gonna pull right up to the gate, stand on it and throw them over. And at that site, you can ride by there some days and there won't be none. Go back the next morning and you got a mountain of them. And I don't believe that's coming from in-county, because like I said, you can go to them and you can pull their monthly receipts.
I agree. I mean, that's one of the few, that's actually one of the smaller problems at that site.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
problem is the
Pilfering.
people go in and empty our dumpsters, every dumpster, onto the asphalt, sorting through the garbage. It's,
And 2 years ago, we weren't having the conversation about this site, we were having it about about pepper site.
Pepper site.
Right.
So it's proven that it works.
Yeah, pepper site works, no doubt.
And there are a few of those sites like Peppers out there that have those long entrances where if the gate were moved tomorrow out near the road, that you wouldn't have that problem.
Yeah.
I do think that you're going to have to extend the hours, though, when we do it like we did at Pepper, because
I agree, it's
Oh,
going to cost more money.
I agree with that, but we're talking about a tire problem here where we know we've got a couple of sites that are habitual offenders.
yeah, we ended up in this same conversation last time that we started talking about tires. So I'll be glad to bring that back as a discussion item, or agenda item. In fact, we can discuss it in your budget workshops.
And I think we end up back there every time, because, I mean, it's hand in hand. There's a large tonnage of tires coming from a couple sites that, and they're coming from out of county, and it's so that they don't have to pay these higher rates. I mean, when they take it there, they're not paying anything. They're saving $115 a ton when it's coming from Columbia County, and $100 a ton.
So what are they doing at their collection sites?
They're not shipping tires,
They're giving
we
them,
are.
they're giving them a map to our collection site.
That's my thing. And obviously, I mean, it's, some of these have closed facilities, and some of them don't.
Yeah.
I know Madison doesn't.
They don't
Or they
take them
used
at
to
their
be.
collection sites. They don't take tires.
They,
Any place except the
the
landfill.
Except
landfill.
landfill.
That's right, and all those other counties. They take no tires at collection sites.
Ta-da. Okay.
Okay. Any further board discussion on this matter? Hearing none, what are the wishes of the board?
If you need a motion, I'll make a motion to take no action.
Well, I don't need a motion, you don't need to do that.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I hear no motion on this matter, so it lacks any support for passage, for even consideration by the board. So it dies for lack of a motion. At this time, I'd like to close public hearing. All right. Moving back to the agenda, we're on commissioner items. I don't have any commissioner items to discuss here this evening. Are there anyone else would like to add anything? We can do so at this time. Our county attorney is not with us here this evening, so we can't ask him if there's any county attorney items. But we look forward to his safe return. Additional agenda items, we've already went through those. We'll move on to public concerns and comments. I don't have any public comments or concerns cards this evening, so we'll move into administrators' comments and information. Mr. Harris, you have anything for us this evening?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm thankful that we're finally starting to have the show in our state attorney's office erected next door. They're about a week behind getting that started, but hopefully they'll move fairly rapidly now and then be on the inside doing the real framing and more time-consuming work. If I had to anticipate right now a time that they may be able to move into that building, I would speculate that it's going to be sometime late February. That's because the whole calendar has moved back now. We will have a number of items that we're going to have to bid. Again, we still have more underground work that needs to be done. We have an issue with the power pole, some other items that I'll be bringing back to you probably in your next meeting, so we can take some action on them and get some of these other things out of the way while the building's being constructed that will facilitate the completion of that project.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I have a question,
Mr. Wainwright.
Administrator.
Commissioner-
I'm sorry I didn't. I should have called and asked just for my sake. Where are we at with Perimeter Road now?
Right now, we're anticipating mobilization sometime in August. There's been a lot of work, a lot of effort gone into trying to ensure that the issues associated with utilities are properly addressed.
That was one of my concerns.
Utilities there service the state prison. There's going to have to, it requires a great deal of coordination. We've had a number of meetings with the city and our engineers, and there will be a number of additional meetings. But that's really one of the big issues right now, but the contractor himself should be mobilizing in August. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of these questions and issues resolved before then, because those things will happen almost simultaneously.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fleming?
I want to ask the same question. What part of the road would you begin with? On 90 or 129? They're going to begin.
Honestly, I don't know right now. We'll have a pre-construction meeting and make that determination, but we haven't yet. And it'll have a lot to do with the relocation of it's the underground utilities that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about overhead stuff. We're talking about what's in the ground. It'll probably have a lot to do with that, and how they want to program the relocation of the underground utilities. That will have a large effect on which end of that project starts first.
All right. Any other comments? The administrator? Hearing none. Board members' inquiries, requests, and comments. Item number 20. Started, I think, with Commissioner Wainwright last time. Commissioner Fleming, you have anything?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything.
All right. Commissioner Sessions?
I don't have anything right now.
Commissioner Gamble?
I don't have anything tonight.
All right. Commissioner Wainwright?
Nothing, sir.
All right. And I don't have anything either. So, there's no informational items. Now I just need one thing.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Gamble. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wainwright. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
See y'all next time.